Ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people were very upset with the performance of the Capitol Police. And, one thing yesterday did show is how easy those buildings in Washington, D.C. are to invade. Look how easy it was. And when you go back and look at the footage, it was the Capitol Police on the outside of the building that actually helped them get in the building. And a lot of people were upset seeing selfies of police officers with Trump supporters taking pictures and all that. It's a disgrace. And there are many that are calling for police officers to lose their jobs over what happened yesterday. So this came out in the New York Times. Capitol breach draws sharp condemnation of law enforcement. Americans looked in shock Wednesday as a calm protest turned into an angry mob that swarmed past barriers and stormed the Capitol, spraying officers with chemical agents, breaking windows and doors, looting sizable objects. And, Nancy Pelosi's office was broken into, and they took items from her office. They took all kinds of items out of the Capitol. So you can add theft to what happened as well. So they took sizable objects as the Capitol Police struggled to contain the violence and sometimes simply retreated. Police force, which numbers about 2,000 officers and has sole jurisdiction over the Capitol buildings and grounds, was clearly outnumbered and unprepared for the onslaught. Now you have to ask yourself why. Why is it that America is so caught off guard about everything? You know why? Because they had it easy. They never had to deal with anything difficult. That's why when these things come up, they do bad, just like the pandemic. When something difficult comes up, they just sink like a rock. And now you see the same thing playing out when it came down to protecting the Capitol. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do their jobs. And to be honest with you, I doubt if they had much training in any type of invasion just based on how they performed yesterday. You know how many countries was looking at this? A lot. I was looking at foreign news, ladies and gentlemen, just to see what they were saying. They said they were in utter shock that a superpower like America fell so easy to a crowd of angry Trump supporters. You just showed your enemies how easy you are to penetrate. That's all they did. And they're so angry, they were wondering because of how easy it was for them to get into the building. I was looking at some reports, and they were like, are some of these Capitol Police Trump supporters? Because why did they just let these people just walk through the building like that? They shouldn't have never gotten past the front doors, but they did. And now they were like, many of these cops need to be investigated to find out which one of them or how many of them are Trump supporters, and just allowed it. All right, back to this, ladies and gentlemen. So there's 2,000 Capitol Police officers that are supposed to protect the grounds and buildings around in that area. So it took more than 2 hours and reinforcements from other law enforcement agencies before orders were restored. So it took them 2 hours to get everything under control up at the Capitol after security and everything was breached. So one woman identified by law enforcement, Ashley Babbitt, was fatally shot by Capitol police officers, according to Robert Conti. Now, I did see what happened on the video. What happened when they got in the building? Ashley was in the building with a group of other people. The Capitol Police came out and told them to stop. Everybody stopped except for Ashley, and that's why she got shot. Okay, so she was fatally shot and she later on died. And then they said another woman and two men also died because of unspecified medical emergencies. Now, the last time I looked, just before I came on to do this, it was up to 70 people were arrested. Now, I know when I woke up this morning, it said 52. It's now up to 70, and I'm sure that number is going to grow. And 4 people are dead. Um, and they're saying that at least 26 on the grounds of U.S. Capitol. Most of the arrests were for violating the 6 p.m. curfew. And I did listen to Marion Bowser, the mayor, and she said the curfew will stay in place until the inauguration. So 6 p.m. in Washington, D.C. is their curfew. Okay, so most of the arrests were for violating the 6 p.m. curfew. So I guess people went back up there after they were dispersed. Adding, the police would circulate pictures of those sought for breaching the Capitol building. In addition to pipe bombs were found on, at the headquarters of the Republican and Democratic national committees, and a cooler that contained a long gun and Molotov cocktails was discovered on the Capitol grounds, the chief said. The criticism of the Capitol Police was swift and in some quarters unforgiving. Some law enforcement experts were astonished by the sight of an officer cowering in a crush of pro-Trump supporter extremists and rioters using police shields and metal barricades to banter and bantering rams. So that's what they're saying. And yeah, you can look. I'm looking at one video, and the cop actually looks scared. He looks scared. He's surrounded by Trump supporters, and he looks scared. You can see terror on his face. Mm-mm-mm. Then why the hell are you a cop? I tell you what, if that was a crowd of black people, he wouldn't have hesitated to pull out his gun. And he had a gun too. He wouldn't have hesitated to pull out that gun and would have started shooting too. But now the world see there is a huge difference between how black people in this country get treated by the police and white people. See, when it's white people, they're very reluctant to do anything to them. Very reluctant. They could have arrested plenty of people yesterday. And protesters on the left saw a stark double standard, saying they had been hit with rubber bullets, manhandled, and surrounded and arrested while behaving peacefully. This is what black supporters are saying during demonstrations against racial injustice over the summer. But with this crowd, they barely wanted to lift a finger against them. No National Guard, no nothing. And look, they had the Kenosha trial for Jacob Blake. They had the National Guard out there ahead of the verdict. Although nothing happened, but you see when it's black people how different it was. Attica Scott, a state representative in Kentucky, was arrested in Louisville on felony charges that were later dropped during the many months of protest over the death of Breonna Taylor in a botched police raid. You can be arrested for walking while black, she said, but you can be white and riot and basically get away with it. Yeah, this is really what many people are saying, not only here in America, but all around the world. President Trump's own rhetoric has included stark contrasts towards protesters. After the George Floyd death, he called demonstrators thugs and promised that those who got out of line near the White House would be met with the most vicious dogs. I remember him saying this. Uh-huh. All right. And I have seen federal law enforcement officers sweep people into unmarked vans and use pepper spray to clear peaceful protesters so that Trump could pose for a photo in front of a church, yeah, with an upside down Bible. Yeah, I remember that. But on Wednesday, after he gave a rally where he said he would never concede, he was far kinder than those who proceeded to storm the Capitol. Hours after the riot began, he finally posed a video. Remember, he posted a video telling people to go home now, and he told them he loved them and they were special and all that stuff. Mm. After the rally at around 1 p.m., crowds amassed at a temporary perimeter fence that had been up around the Capitol. And of course, the crowd grew angry and they ended up, just pushing down that barrier and just going right through. Okay, there was a notable change in their demeanor, Chief Conti said. One policing expert said there should have been a heavily manned perimeter sealing off the entire Capitol grounds and a second one around the building itself. Given that extremist groups with a history of violence, confrontation were involved. And of course, he's saying he does not even understand why they were not ready. This is according to Charles Ramsey, a former DC police chief. They were overwhelmed. They did not have the reserves and resources. You should be able to protect the Capitol. That's not okay. And he's right. It's not. On Thursday morning, Stephen Sund, chief of the Capitol Police, put out a written statement lauding his officers as having responded vigilantly when faced with thousands of individuals involved in violent. Okay, so he's just talking about the violent actions, and so he's pretty much letting his cops off, saying they were outnumbered, but he's still not answering the questions to why the cops on the outside of the Capitol let them go in. He just avoided that altogether. The violent attack on the U.S. Capitol was unlike any I have ever experienced in my 30 years in law enforcement here in Washington, D.C., Chief Sund said. So, okay, so what kind of plan do you have for any type of invasion? Y'all didn't have no plans at all? You had nothing? Wow. So, believe it or not, many of the Congress and Senate initially they didn't even know what was going on. When they were told to leave, evacuate, and some of them actually went up on the second floor, and even when they were up on the second floor, they still didn't know what was going on. Okay. Members of Congress demanded explanations as well. And of course, they're calling for an investigation. I warned our caucus and had an hour-long conversation with the chief of police 4 days ago. He reassured me the terrorists would not be allowed on the plaza and Capitol secured. And apparently that was not true. This is what Maxine Waters was saying. Representative Val Demings, Florida Democrat, said in an interview with MSNBC on Wednesday night that the Capitol Police appeared understaffed. It did not seem that they had a clear operational plan to really deal with thousands of people who descended on the Capitol after Mr. Trump's complaints of a rigged election, she said. Mr. Ramsey said the police officers in riot gear should have been stationed nearby. And I'm just looking at them taking selfies with the police, yeah, we're all good with the cops. They don't treat us like you black people. Look, we're taking selfies. That's exactly what it looks like. Taking all these selfies with the cops. Man, please. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is shameful, and it just goes to prove that America is not ready. If this place got invaded tomorrow, America would not be ready for it. They wouldn't be ready at all. What a disgrace to talk about being exceptional and trying to make everybody feel like it was something special to be an American, just to find out it's all a bunch of BS. But y'all, please tell me what you think. I mean, they're going to be talking about this insurrection for days to come, weeks to come. Okay. They're going to be talking about this. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.